Welcome, everybody. This is John Palmaducci, Dr. Speed Selling. This is Raging Verbalist number 161. For those of you keeping track, we are. If you've never been here before, welcome, and we're glad that you're here. If you're an old timer, you've been here for a while, thanks for coming back. Always on YouTube, you want to hit that like button. It helps the algorithm. Got to feed it. It's like having one of those little, what was those little things people would carry, and they'd have, like an electronic digital pet, and you had to feed the damn thing.
Oh, like DigiPets or something?
DigiPets, yes. And by the way, you've heard that. You've heard the lovely voice, and you're seeing the lovely Sandra, who is playing hurt today. She is ill. She was at the germ factory and picked up a whole bucket of it, but now she's trying to get better. So she's here playing hurt. That's what a deal that is. So, all right, and also you can go to our Facebook group, Position to Win Book, and check it out there. All right, so Sandra, let's roll. What are we going to talk about? Hit it.
All right, so we're talking about mental toughness. So what are some factors, traits, and attitudes of success?
Well, there's actually a lot. In fact, there's probably too many that we're going to go through, but just to name a few to kind of get this whole thing rolling is one is being thoughtful. You have to be able to think things through, and you have to work through that. And that's a big area of success. I know there's a lot of people who think that you can just kind of, imagine something, but you got to think things through. So I would say that's like, one of those very important things. And you got to think it through. You got to say, okay, so let me think about this. Let me work on it. Let me write out a plan. Let me work through some of these things. You'd be amazed at how many people don't have a plan. I sat in a meeting yesterday with a real company with a lot of dough on the table, and well, they were kind of missing some documentation. You got to be able to do that. Number two is clear goals or objectives. You have to know what you're shooting at. If you don't know what that target is, you don't know what you're aiming for, you don't know what those things are, not going to get there anytime soon, in my opinion, because what will happen is that your mind plays tricks on you. You'll think that you got it figured out, but if you don't have it kind of written out ahead of time. The magician's trick, let's say the magician's trick is they say, well, going to figure out the card, and they put the card in the envelope, and then they tear open the envelope. Was that your card? And everybody goes, yeah, ooh, ooh, well, what if they just had a deck of cards and you had to pick one out? No, you got to have something written down and in that sealed envelope ahead of time. And the third is taking action steps. You got to take action steps. Move yourself forward, taking action. And if you do that, you're going to get more out of life anyway. Most of the time when I see people who are not successful and I'm doing coaching, it's not that they're not capable, not that they're not smart, educated, not all of those things, but they're not necessarily taking action.
And is there one that stands out?
Well, the one trait that really stands out is mental toughness. And mental toughness is really important because you can have all of the right credentials, you can be all of those things, but if you can't take the bumps and bruises, then you're not going to get to where you want to go. I've got a story that I think is important. So I had a client who owned a call center. And for those of you who don't know, I started in a call center so many years ago. And this guy had somewhere between 600 and 800 callers. He had a lot of callers. And I said, so what's the number one thing you look for? What are the successful callers? Because I can tell you, being a caller, being a telemarketer, as much as you may not like those people calling, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to reach out, and you're going to find some things. And he said, John, really the number one thing I'm looking for, and I've not found a way to accurately measure it, quickly measure it, find out where it is, do all that, is mental toughness. That is the absolute number one trait for success, is having mental toughness, that ability to resist that force that's out there, that's going to be that headwind that you have to keep pushing your way through and working to where you need to go. Because if you don't, it's not going to be it's just not going to work out very well. In fact, I saw that it's in that call center that I started out in, and people would show up, and it was like the parade of humanity that would come through there. And they would, they'd do the orientation, they would start talking, they put people on the phones. But I can tell you that, this one woman who was there, she was convinced that she was going to, because she liked talking to people on the phone, this was going to be perfect. And all I remember is she made it through orientation. She worked a little bit on the phone. She said, hey, I got to go get my cigarettes out of the car. And she left, and, well, I guess her car was a long way away because we never saw her again. And, you know, that was an example of she did not have mental toughness at all. So that to me is the absolute number one. If you don't have mental toughness, well, hopefully by the end of this today, you're going to have a better idea of how to at least go get some or fake some or whatever it has to be.
And can you talk in greater detail about mental toughness?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you about how, basically how it all comes down to, and you want to write this down like on a 3x5 card, is how far will you go? How far will you go to achieve whatever you're trying to achieve? How far are you going to hang in there? So I'll talk about two different sales scenarios. So Bob in Phoenix, not his real name, was selling these rugged laptops. And rugged laptops, it is a big deal because, you have, police and firemen and ambulance and, utility people. You got to have a rugged laptop because, they're going to bang it around. You can't be babying this thing when it's out in the field. So he was up against a much bigger company, but he represented this company that had he thought a really good, positive story and all of that. So it was a big opportunity. Now, I had nothing to do with either the rugged company or the opportunity. I was just riding along because he was a sales rep for me and sold several lines. So we're sitting there, and I could tell that he was just, kind of depressed and hangdog. And the last thing we do is riding along doing sales calls with somebody. When he walk in, I go, well, how are you doing, Bob? And Bob goes, oh, I'm doing okay. Because, he's like going to the gallows or something. And, by the way, gallows humor is funny, but this guy was just, down in the mouth. So I said, why so sad, Bob? What's wrong? And he goes, well, I've got this really great opportunity. Let me, tell me about it. I said, okay, now, I could have shut him down and said, Bob, I don't have anything to do with this. Get your head straight. Quit talking about this. But I thought, perfect time, coach him up, get him out there, get him back in the game. And I told him, I said, okay, so tell me about what you're going to do. How far are you going to go? Which is how will you do it? How far will you go? And he and I sat there, and on a placemat, it was that kind of restaurant. It was not a high-end restaurant. I mapped out a plan for him to go and talk to everybody on the city council, talk to the mayor, show everybody what his wares were, just put on the full court press. And all I can tell you is Bob did not have mental toughness. Well, Bob didn't last long with me because Bob did not have mental toughness. He was not willing to do whatever it was going to take to get to wherever he needed to go and make that happen. So that was a big, in my opinion, a big example of not doing it. Now, the other side of it is that I was a manufacturer's rep, and early on in my days of selling high tech, and I lived in Colorado. Snow comes down from the sky in Colorado, happens. And so there was this snowstorm that turned into a blizzard, and I didn't know any better because I was used to selling much tougher things to sell. But I get my Subaru four-wheel drive station wagon, old school, put that baby in a four-wheel drive, and I'm motoring along. And I go out to this big company, Storage Technology, and I had gotten a permanent badge as long as I didn't go into any place that was, classified or anything. They didn't really have classified, but you couldn't take advantage of having a permanent badge too much. And I went out there and I started talking to people, and I noticed that the parking lot is basically empty. And that's because everybody had a snow day, whatever the hell that meant. And I go through and I worked my way through, and I ended up getting this $48,000 deal because all the guys I needed to see who were really important on it, they had shown up because they were trying to get this thing done. And we put it all together, and great deal. Now, I did whatever it would take to do that. Now, they were shocked and surprised. The customer was shocked and surprised because there was 8 inches on the top of my car by the time we got through with all this. So brushed it all off, motored my way home. The guys in Sunnyvale were out of their minds happy. They were like, are you kidding me? You did what? How did you do this? What? And that built a reputation. And that was an example of mental toughness because I could have easily bagged it, tagged it, went back home, like everybody else, watch some TV, do whatever you're going to do. but not go out and do what I need to do. And to me, that's what mental toughness is that you are not going to be deterred by the small, the medium, and large of life, because that's going to happen. If every time something crops up stops you, then you know what's going to happen? You're going to be stopped a lot. You're not going to be going where you need to go. So to me, that is an example of mental toughness, and I've used it ever since.
Is mental toughness learned or are you born with it?
Well, the answer is both, and let me explain. So I think some people are predisposed to be kind of that, I'm going to go, I can do attitude. I'm not going to let anything stand in the way. I'm going to just push on and push on and push on and push on. But I also think that it's a learned trait, because if you start to give into the temptation, I don't know if I want to do this because it's going to be tough, or it's going to be hard, or it's not going to be easy, or, this is happening or that's happening. Once you do that, once you find out that you can get along and go along and take that road, I think what happens is that you are going to start to kind of give into the seduction of, does it really have to be done today? Do I really have to go out and make this happen? But mental toughness is all about learning to see those cues happen in your life and then push them back, block them out. I don't think there's anybody, maybe there are a few people, there are many, but I've never, I think if you're going to write a book, or you're going to do like a YouTube channel, or you're going to go out and do seminars, or you're going to go out and sell a whole bunch of stuff, or you're going to start a company, or you're going to build, your own little empire, however that empire goes, you're going to need some mental toughness. And I have seen a lot of fair weather business people. I won't call them necessarily entrepreneurs, maybe even entrepreneurs, but as soon as things get a little bit rough, they're paddling back to shore as quick as they possibly can. And they're not really doing that. So I think that it becomes a learned response, and that learned response contributes to mistakes and errors and all kinds of things that are not very good, because what happens is that you give into that, and once you do, it's going to be tough. So in that vein and in that direction, I would suggest a couple things that you can do. One of which, of course, is to get my book. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Now, you may say, well, John, isn't that, where does mental toughness fit into that? Well, I can tell you that most businesses fail because they fail to do the necessary upfront things. If you want to be successful in anything, you have to take the time to do things up front and do it right. Now, it doesn't mean you have to wait until everything is perfect. No, quite the contrary, because we need to take action. But what you have to know is that when you start something, whatever your assumptions, and by the way, every business is started with assumptions, everything that you guess and think is going to work a certain way, well, it's going to come back and not be correct. So what you have to do is you have to say, okay, how do I make it past that? So a step in that direction would be to go out and check out. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Position to win. And you can get that at positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. You can also ask, and we'll sign it, inscribe it, and say some things. Also, you can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million in the physical. You can also get it digitally, Kindle, Nook, and Apple iBooks. And then we also have another title, Remote Work for a Better World. It's available exclusively on the Amazon Kindle store. And we're now getting into a little bit of merch, beautifully designed by our lovely Sandra. And this is so you can have the Raging Verbalist with you every day. So that way, when you go to kind of not have that resolve, that steely resolve, you can get yourself a cup of whatever your favorite beverage is and say, nope, I'm going to be mentally tough today. So check it out. Go to positiontowinbook.com. Also, some really cool free things. And hopefully we'll see you there. So what's next, Sandra?
All right. So what can someone do to increase their mental toughness?
First thing you have to do is you have to adopt a mindset that when you meet resistance, and you will meet resistance, because if you're not meeting resistance, you're probably not trying hard enough. You're probably doing something, is that you want to find something, even the smallest thing, so that way you can move forward, that you can always move forward, always think of yourself, and for those of you who don't know about the evolutionary nature of critters, sharks cannot stop and kind of hang there, so they don't have there's no lazy boy for sharks. So you have to be out there and always swimming because they haven't evolved enough. So they have to always have water over their gills, get the oxygen, away we go. So I'm just telling you right now, that's something you want to figure out how to do. So if you adopt that mindset that you're going to find a way to overcome these things, you're going to find a way to move forward. Traveled yesterday, just got back last night. And I can tell you the airport is filled with people who every time there's an announcement, every time. Now, I had a little bit of a delay. My business partner left the day before, spent 8.5 hours in the Denver airport. Well, turns out in his case, they had a mechanical problem with the plane. And what was the reaction from most of the passengers? Not my business partner. What was the reaction? Well, why don't they have a spare plane? I'm going to tell you right now, here's a bonus. There are no spare planes. There are no spare planes. They're too damn expensive. So when you meet that obstacle, you can dissipate energy. You can waste a lot of time. You can get yourself all in a froth. You can write bad tweets. You can say, so-and-so airlines, Or what you can do is you can say mental toughness is moving away from that and moving to something more positive that you can do. Because there's a lot of things you can do. You make that choice. And I think that's an aspect of mental toughness, is that you need to figure out a way to move forward. You also need to be able to let go of emotional angst when it isn't helping you. If it's not going to get you where you need to go, it will harm you and dissipate your energy. So mental toughness is all about knowing how to pick your battles. And I would summarize it by saying this, is this the frickin' hill you want to die on? No, it's a delay. Keep doing positive things, keep moving in the right direction.
And how do you suggest that someone handle that internal fear factor, the I know I'll fail, so why even try?
This is a very common problem. I mean, the road to ruin is taking the easy way, actually. If you are one of those people who, you went through a very nice college program, but whenever they said, okay, here's a tough course, here's an easy course, you went to the easy course. When I meet people who have a great grade point average, which, makes their parents proud and makes all that stuff, all that's fine. But if you didn't take the tough courses, if you didn't do the challenges, if you didn't put the energy into overcoming things, then what will happen is that will become your standard of how you accept what you will or will not do. And that is very dangerous, because to me, the road to ruin is taking the easy way all the time. People take the easy way. So the opposite of that, the direction that I would suggest that you go to get yourself better at this and overcome these fear factors is do the tough, the hard, make the effort. And to me, that will make you stronger, even if you're not successful. I have met lots of people who failed at a business. I've done several failures in my career. And what you have to do is you have to learn from it and move on. And if you say, well, I'm gonna lose anyway, then you've already defeated yourself. What you have to know is that you got to put that out of your mind, because there are things that you're successful at. Build upon the successes, learn from the mistakes, but by all means, drop the emotional angst that comes with that. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be dragging around all that baggage, and all that baggage is just going to slow you down. If you have that fear factor in you, the only antidote is to take action and build upon success after success. I can tell you, after my double bankruptcy, it would have been really easy and very acceptable with most of the people that I knew, that I would have just gone back and had just a kind of a job in the industry and, did all that. And I did for a while, thinking about, what would that look like? But as I gathered myself up, what I did was I knew that on the other side, I had to take all those lessons that I learned. Frankly, I probably wouldn't be where I am today, wouldn't be here today talking to y'all if I hadn't gone through that process. And that made me a lot tougher than I was before. I thought I was pretty tough, but I can tell you, sometimes life will step up and give you another better challenge.
And does this only apply to selling or business?
I think it is without question a big no. It does not just apply to business or selling or whatever that, thing that we're talking about doing. It actually applies to all aspects of life, because all aspects of life are filled with rocks in the road, bumps, unexpected obstacles, things that aren't going to go the way you thought they were going to go. Your expectations. So people have fears, that's the F word, and then they have expectations, that's the E word. The problem that you'll run into is that if you have an expectation that this is going to be this easy, everything should just be smooth and all that, that would be great. However, I want you to know that since this applies to all aspects of your life, be mentally tough in everything you do. Doesn't mean you need to be harsh, just means that you have to have resolve, that you have to make sure that you have that ability to move forward no matter what. And if you do, every aspect of your life will become better. If you think of the small, and this is why I call it the smallest thing, since life is a series of activities and actions and tasks and things. So if you improve one piece, if you have one small victory, one small thing that happens in a positive way, that may spark and give you that sense, that belief that you're going to be able to continue that moving forward.
And given all the swirling negativity, what can someone do?
Well, it's a three-part answer. Actually, there's more than three parts, but we only have time for three parts. Number one is avoid being sucked into the drama. There is tons of drama out there right now. I mean, you name it, there's tons of drama. I was eating breakfast on the road, and the server, a waiter, and I said, well, hey, what's going on? He goes, well, I'm watching the Federal Reserve report today. And I said, you're watching the what? He goes, the Federal Reserve. Now, that's not something I normally hear at 7 a.m. while I'm on the road, that somebody who's a server is looking at the Federal Reserve, and he's telling me about his stock portfolio. So that was interesting, but he was all sucked into the drama. He was going to watch what the Federal Reserve, Powell said, and he was going to watch it on YouTube. Okay, you want to avoid getting sucked into the drama, because it's not a good idea, because the drama will just chew you up. There's always drama. Humans love it. We love that, But part of mental toughness is being able to separate that out. Number two is know your goals and the focus that you have. You have to have a focus on something. I'll meet people who say, John, I want to achieve, and they have a whole laundry list of things. Well, that's great, but what are we going to knock off first? What are we going to get done that's going to put us in a defensible position so that way we can do other things? If you're sitting there right now saying, well, I want to travel, I want to have a family life, I want to have a great business, I want to have, this great intimate relationship. I mean, you're going to have all of that. Well, okay, sounds good. But what I find is that usually those people are very activity oriented, but they're not necessarily getting to where they want to go. Focus on those most important goals. Separate them out. And whatever your goals are valid. I'm not going to project my goals on you, but whatever they are, they're valid. And number three is you have to ask yourself, you have to commit yourself to do whatever it takes to get to those goals, to get to those objectives, to get to those places. And you have to press on no matter what. You have to fight for your dreams. Lots of people give up and quit. Lots of people stop. Lots of people say, well, I just don't have the whatever it is, fill in the blank. One of the businesses that I have, we were sitting there talking to this guy, we'll call him Charlie. And we said, Charlie, there's a lot of cool things that we can do. And by the way, if you come in and help us, there's an opportunity for some equity, some things you can do. And he said to us with absolutely no quiver in his voice, John, if I was younger, I think I could do this. The guy had just turned 36 and it was over. He already knew what he wanted to do and where it was going to be. And there was no opportunity that could entice him. I'm not saying we were that opportunity, but there wasn't even that chance of discussing it and going forward and looking at it. So at 36, he had it figured out. And when you're 36 today, that means you're going to retire when you're 70. That means he's got what, 44 years? You know, sounds like he's stopping short. Sounds like he's not going the distance. Sounds like he's given up, because in some ways he had some issues, had a divorce, trying to keep connected with his son, wanted, moved, wanted, had a good job, wanted to see, we didn't ask him to quit his job. We had, hey, help us build this on the side. If this thing grows and you make the jump. But he had already decided that it was over. My suggestion to each and every one of you is it is not over until it's really over. And you need to have the mental toughness to make sure that you keep pushing forward and never let yourself abandon those goals, those dreams, those things that you want to achieve, and have the mental toughness to say, you know what, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make that happen. And because of that, I am worthy of achieving these things, and I am worthy of accepting those gifts that I'm going to get from life, because it's all about the experiences that you have and the riches that you can collect. But more importantly, it's all about what you do to make your life better. Mental toughness can get you there. And without mental toughness, I think you'll have a very hard time, no matter how many success books you read. If you don't put that core, steely spine, backbone that always is there and resilient, then you will not be as successful as you could be. So for myself, John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling, and the lovely Sandra, playing hurt today. She has been sick as a dog all week, but she pulled it out. This has been the Raging Verbalist number 161. I hope you have the mental toughness to go up there and hit that like button, the subscribe button, go over to positionwinbook.com. But hopefully you have the mental toughness. Hopefully I've convinced you that you can achieve more and will get to where you want to go in life.